huge news today, and I think a lot of players are going to be really excited about the update to builders and scientists, specifically how they're going to be nerfed. Let me take you through the details without mucking around. First and foremost, to bring you up to speed, the builder affinity ability turns all money and science into industry for at least 5 turns. You can use it on a city. You'll see me use it throughout this game, so don't worry, there'll be gameplay relevant in the background. The other ability in question is this one, the scientist affinity. Here, the affinity action, Collective Minds, does a similar thing to builders, but instead provides science. You're turning all of your city's industry and money into science for 5 turns, at the very least. There are no limits on how many cities you can run this ability. In my experience, the only real limit to it is how bankrupt do I want to be, and usually you can push it pretty far and pretty hard. So, what have they announced today? What changes are we seeing to the builder ability, to the scientist ability, and when? First off, I can cover when very easily. It's next month, April, which actually at the time of recording is a matter of hours away for me, so when you're watching this, it's probably closer to this month than next month. Either way, I digress. The main changes that we're going to see to these abilities are as follows. And I'll show you on screen because they announced it on Twitter. It's not the highest resolution of footage, but you can kind of see how it plays out. You see what I mean? I wasn't kidding. Either way, these are the, I would say, 3 key factors that you need to know, and these apply to both abilities, by the way, both the Landraiser builder ability and the scientific affinity. From now on, or from the April update, I should say, it will only be able to be used 1 city at a time. I tried to time my mouth with his there, but it really didn't work. Either way, it can only be used on 1 city at a time, and that adds a lot of nuance to it. You actually have to make tactical decisions around where and when to use it, because you can only use it on 1 city at a time. That is a massive change to something which you previously could have used on, let's say, an average of 5 or 6 cities. Now you can only use it on 1. It's significantly nerfed, and should see the rest of the meta lift up as the builder ability is nerfed down. Likewise with the scientific affinity as well. The second key change, and it's probably another nerf, instead of 5 turns, it's now on a 10-turn timer. So once you activate it, you're stuck using it for 10 turns. This would have previously been an issue, maybe, where you were activating it on all cities and potentially going bankrupt because you're stuck in it for 10 turns. But I think considering it's only active on 1 city, the impact of this nerf is significantly less. The real change here actually comes from the fact that the cooldown is also 10 turns. So not only is the ability active for 10 turns, but you can't use it again for another 10. I should note that they made a special point of mentioning that this was on normal game speed. Traditionally, these abilities haven't scaled with game speed, but the fact that they've specifically mentioned it maybe hints at the fact that it could be more flexible with game speeds in future. That would be an important change, particularly, of course, because the timer is 10 turns. I mean, in a blitz mode, where you're playing a 75-turn game, you maybe use it once and that's it, so the cooldown doesn't matter. At the other extreme end, it's maybe not enough, so it would be nice to see it scale with game speed as well. But either way, regardless of how it scales, this is a minor nerf, I believe. Much more minor than the first one, the fact that you can only use these abilities on 1 city at a time. My goodness. That is a nerf that I think the players, a lot of players, will be really excited about. It will significantly change the meta, and actually, that brings me to my third point. The developers argue that these changes will make the ability more engaging, as I say, around tactics and strategy. Of course, the idea of nerfing these is to make the game more balanced, and also it'll add a little more nuance to the abilities. Like I say, there's more tactics, it's more carefully planned, or at least if you want to use it properly, you'll need to be carefully planned. But this brings me into my third point. They have also confirmed that after these changes take place in the April update, likely the largest update to Humankind we've seen since launch, definitely the largest one this year anyway, It's still not too late to crack year jokes. I'm still doing it. We're at the end of March and I'm still doing it. I'm really proud. Either way, they have said that they'll be looking at other cultures, specific cultures in depth after these changes take place, and they've had an opportunity to receive feedback. Essentially, we'll be playing them, testing them, and providing feedback in various ways. That will then shape future cultures and future buffs, or probably, if I'm theorizing here, looking into my crystal ball, future nerfs. In the gameplay here, you can see I'm playing as the Egyptians. And I've just turned off the builder ability so that I can actually get some money and science up in here. But I was easily able to use it for 5 turns, and I think that the Egyptians, alongside a few other cultures, could see further attention after these changes. Because let's not forget that there are other elements to both builder and scientific cultures that aren't being changed. You may have noticed at the start of the video that builder cultures receive stability every time they build a district. Combine that with the affinity ability and you can kind of chain through this almost unlimited one-time bonus of stability that doesn't really bite you in the backside until you decide not to be an industrialist, in a way trapping you in that loop. But also it's a very powerful effect. The scientists, of course, have something similar, but actually much stronger. They can research an era ahead in technology. So when no one else can embark, you can. When no one else has nukes, you do. So I wouldn't necessarily say that these nerfs are going to drive these cultures into the ground, and that makes me really happy, because in general, and I'm not a game developer, I'm just a game player, I like to see things lifted up rather than pushed down. But of course, there's only so much lifting up you can do before everything is ridiculously powerful. So I think it's really nice to see that they're bringing the power level down, but as far as we're aware, not changing those other key things. It still means that both industrialist cultures and scientist cultures will have key benefits to them that others do not. And I believe, and this is just me theory crafting here, but I believe that this is going to strike a very good balance, maybe not perfect, but a very good balance within the meta at that higher level of cultures, comparing builders to scientists to agrarians, you name it. I think this will help provide a lot of balance across that high level. And that really matters for the meta. And as I say, once they provide that balance at the higher level, that's then when they'll start to look at individual cultures. The Egyptians, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's my early bias from playing Humankind since launch and since the betas that I still have it in my mind that the Egyptians are ludicrously overpowered. Is there a better industrialist relative to their era? There could very well be. Let me know. I'm probably not thinking about that at all. Either way, a few more things to cover off here at the end of this video. The April update, scheduled for release in, quote, late April, or mid to late April, will also see some other key changes that don't necessarily align with the cultural balancing that we're seeing, but they will help improve the experience. So just quickly to go over them, because we have received a little bit more information about these too. We know that the notification system is changing down the bottom. You can see that little bobbing exclamation mark. I would love to turn off a whole load of those notifications and really just keep the key ones. Someone declaring war against someone, that kind of thing. That's the information I want. I don't really mind so much about the rest. Cool to see. Is it game changing? No. Is it going to be anywhere near as impactful as the shifting of the balance of the entire meta of the game by nerfing builders and scientists? No, but it should add to the user experience. Like why the more immersive religions play. Again, I fall back to when Humankind first came out and I just could not firstly figure out and secondly remember to change my religion to a historical one. It's buried deep under a little drop down arrow, and if you don't know it's there, you miss out on that historical flair completely. The idea here is that they'll bring it up front in the UI, so it's really obvious that you can choose a historical religion, Hinduism for example, and follow that through. Get the sort of aesthetic bonuses that it provides, and as the developers argue, hopefully add to the immersion of Humankind. Last but not least, it's important to also note that there's a much broader roadmap for Humankind that they outlaid many months ago. The roadmap largely features a lot of the things that are scheduled for this update. particularly those nerfs, which, again, I just cannot stress. It's going to really impact the meta potentially. The reason why I bring up the roadmap is not because of those meta impacts, it's not even because of the cultural changes, it's actually to reinforce that point around immersion, because it seems to be an increasingly important one on that roadmap. One other thing that won't be making it, as far as we've been told, into the April update is the immersive empire names. How do you provide more identity to these empires when they're changing cultures? I think one of the challenges here is that you often, or I often, I should say, end up calling an empire blue, red, yellow. You lose track a little bit, or I do, sorry, I'm not meaning to place this on you. I lose track a little bit of actually who people are, unless I'm paying really close attention to the Greeks turning into the whatevers. I kind of just miss it. So I'm also really looking forward to that immersion aspect, which again, I say won't be coming until a little bit later, probably, because we haven't heard it be announced for this coming patch, unlike, again, the notifications, the more immersive religion, the cultural balances, and some changes to sieges and siege units as well. Again, a minor change, but it's building into that, firstly, balancing the cultures, and secondly, providing immersion. And those will be the two factors that I'm going to be evaluating this update on. Either way, that concludes this video. I would really love to know your thoughts. Do you agree with me? Do you think that this will help to turn the meta on its head? Or maybe not that extreme. Maybe it will be in that Goldilocks zone. It'll be just right to just bring them down a little bit to where everyone else is. And maybe we see some cheeky buffs to lift everyone else up a fraction as well. Either way, I'd love to know your thoughts. Please do let me know in the comments below. And until next time, I'll see you then. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.